Hello everyone. I am Donna. Today I am here with a very interesting story from Korea. So, let's dive into this together. Our story begins in the early 1900s in a tiny fishing village in Korea. At this time, Korea is poor, unstable, and struggling under the growing shadow of Japanese occupation. In a small boarding house near the sea lives a quiet young couple. The husband is born with a cleft palate and a twisted foot. Society sees him as weak and undesirable. But despite his physical appearance, he is kind, hardworking, and deeply respected. His wife is gentle and loyal. Together, they run a humble boarding house for fishermen. Life is difficult. Money is always scarce. But there is warmth inside their home. And eventually, after years of hardship, they have a daughter. Her name is Sunja. From the moment she is born, Sunja becomes the center of their world. Her father especially adores her. He teaches her honesty, dignity, and the importance of endurance. But tragedy arrives early. When Sunja is still a child, her father dies. His death changes everything. The family loses not only emotional support, but financial stability. Now Sunja's mother must carry the burden alone. She works endlessly to keep the boarding house alive. And Sunja grows up watching sacrifice become a daily routine. Years pass. Sunja becomes a beautiful and strong young woman. Quiet, observant, innocent. But underneath her calm personality is enormous emotional strength. Then one day, she meets a wealthy stranger. A man named Ko Han-soo. And this meeting changes the course of her entire life. Ko Han-soo is unlike anyone Sunja has ever met. He is confident, sophisticated, powerful, and mysterious. Unlike the poor fishermen around her village, Han-soo moves like a man who understands the world. He wears fine clothes. He speaks carefully. And people seem afraid of him. Sunja is drawn to him immediately. At first, their relationship seems innocent. They walk together, talk beside the ocean, share dreams. For Sunja, Han-soo represents possibility, escape, a future beyond poverty. But slowly, their connection becomes romantic. And eventually, Sunja becomes pregnant. For a young unmarried woman in early 20th century Korea, this is catastrophic. Her reputation could be destroyed. Her mother could lose the boarding house. Their entire family could be ruined. Terrified, Sunja tells Han-soo. And that's when the truth comes out. Han-soo is already married. Not only married, but wealthy and deeply connected to powerful people in Japan. He offers Sunja financial security. He promises to take care of her. But only as his mistress. For a moment, Sunja is shattered. She realizes she never truly understood the man she loved. Everything feels like a lie. But even in her fear and heartbreak, she refuses to abandon her dignity. She rejects his offer. A decision that changes generations. Because if Sunja had accepted Han-soo's proposal, this entire story would have unfolded differently. Instead, fate sends another man into her life. A sickly young pastor named Isaac. Isaac is completely different from Han-soo. He is gentle, kind, religious, and physically weak. When Isaac learns about Sunja's situation, he does something unexpected. He offers to marry her. Not out of passion. Not out of selfish desire. But out of compassion. He wants to protect her and the unborn child. Sunja is shocked. No one has ever offered her such grace before. Eventually, she accepts. And together, they leave Korea behind. Their destination is Osaka, Japan. At first, Japan feels overwhelming. Crowded streets, factories, noise, poverty, and underneath everything, discrimination. Because even though Koreans live and work in Japan, they are treated as outsiders. Inferior. Unwanted. The family moves into a tiny home with Isaac's brother Yoseb and his wife Kyung-hee. Life inside the house is cramped. Food is limited. Everyone works constantly. Yet despite hardship, there is love inside the family. Sunja gives birth to a son. His name is Noah. And for a brief moment, hope returns. But outside their home, the political climate grows darker. Japan becomes increasingly militarized. War approaches. And Koreans in Japan face worsening hostility. Meanwhile, Isaac's religious beliefs place him in danger. The Japanese government demands loyalty and obedience. Many cannot find proper jobs. Children are bullied. Families hide their identities. And in this painful environment, one industry quietly offers opportunity. Pachinko. The gambling game that gives the novel its title. Pachinko parlors become one of the few businesses where Korean immigrants can succeed. The work is looked down upon. Respectable society considers it dirty and shameful. But for many Korean families, Pachinko becomes survival. Money. Security. A chance to escape starvation. And eventually, this industry becomes deeply connected to Sunja's family. As Noah grows older, he becomes intelligent and ambitious. He wants desperately to build a respectable life. Unlike Mosasu, who accepts conflict, Noah wants peace. He wants normalcy. He wants to disappear into society. And for a while, it seems possible. He performs brilliantly in school, wins opportunities, and dreams of a future free from shame. But then, he learns the truth. The truth about his biological father. Kohansu. A man connected to organized crime. A man whose influence stretches through illegal businesses and underground networks. Everything Noah believed about himself suddenly collapses. He becomes consumed with horror. Because Noah believes blood determines destiny. He fears that darkness lives inside him. And instead of confronting his family, he runs away. Completely disappearing. 4 years. Sunja is destroyed by his disappearance. She searches emotionally for answers. But Noah cuts himself off from everyone. He creates a new identity, a new life, pretending his past does not exist. Meanwhile, Mosasu's path becomes very different. Unlike Noah, Mosasu does not seek approval from society. Instead, he builds power, confidence, and wealth. Through the pachinko industry, he becomes successful. Very successful. But even money cannot erase prejudice. No matter how rich he becomes, society still reminds him he is Korean. This becomes one of the novel's most painful themes. The idea that some people are never allowed to fully belong. No matter what they achieve. The novel now shifts toward the next generation. Mosasu eventually has a son named Solomon. And Solomon represents something entirely new. He is modern, educated, fluent in multiple languages, raised between cultures. For the first time, it seems possible that the family may finally escape the suffering that haunted previous generations. Solomon studies abroad, learns business, and enters elite corporate environments. But even he cannot fully escape discrimination. Because prejudice evolves. It changes shape. Sometimes it becomes invisible, polite, corporate, yet still cruel. Solomon realizes that no matter how polished he becomes, society still sees him differently. Meanwhile, Sunja grows old. And as she reflects on her life, we see the emotional weight she has carried for decades. She remembers her father, her mother, Isaac, Hansu, the war, the poverty, the sacrifices, and most painfully, Noah. Because even after all these years, the wound of losing her son never heals. Then eventually, Sunja reunites with Noah. But the reunion is tragic. Noah remains deeply ashamed of his identity. He cannot forgive himself. He cannot escape his fear. And in one of the novel's most devastating moments, Noah takes his own life. It is heartbreaking. Not only because of the loss itself, but because it symbolizes what years of discrimination and shame can do to a human soul. Noah spent his entire life trying to become someone society would accept. And in the end, he destroyed himself trying. So why is the novel called Pachinko? The answer is deeply symbolic. In the pachinko game, tiny metal balls bounce unpredictably through a machine. Sometimes luck changes everything. Sometimes it changes nothing. No matter how carefully you play, The system itself controls most outcomes. And that mirrors the lives of the characters. They work hard, make sacrifices, try to live honestly. Yet larger systems, colonialism, racism, war, class, nationality, continue shaping their lives. Again and again. Still, despite all the suffering, the family survives. That is the true heart of this novel. Not victory. Not perfection. Survival. Generation after generation. Humans continuing forward even when the world treats them unfairly. And perhaps that is why this story resonates so deeply with readers around the world. Because almost everyone understands what it means to fight for dignity, to search for belonging, to carry the pain of family, and to keep moving forward anyway. Pachinko. Novel by Min Jin Lee is more than a historical novel. It is a deeply human story. A story about mothers and sons. About immigrants and identity. About the invisible wounds passed from one generation to another. But above all, it is a story about resilience. About ordinary people surviving extraordinary hardship. And that is what makes this novel unforgettable. If you enjoyed this storytelling journey, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below. Which moment in Pachinko affected you the most? And which novel should we explore next? Until next time, keep reading, keep imagining, and keep discovering stories that stay with you forever.